join me in welcoming Reverend Juan Torro.
All right, Unity of Hartford, good morning. God bless each and every one of you. I'm delighted to be here. I thank Reverend Chris for the opportunity to address you. I feel very much at home here. So thank you for your love. Thank you for your welcome. I love this community. I love every chance I get to be here. And I do want to address those of you here, address those of you joining us via the miracle of video connection, and to you especially joining us by video, right? We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you. And if you're at all in the greater Hartford area, we invite you to come on in. We have an absolutely beautiful sanctuary. We got fellowship that is awesome. We got loving people to welcome you, celebrate you, get a nice hug. And it's one thing to hear James sing Rise through the little speaker on your computer, and it's another to witness it in person, right? So come on in. We love you. We bless you. We want to see you here. All right, great. So Albert Einstein said something prophetic. He said, the most important question that you need to ask yourself is this a friendly universe? Now, this is surprising from a mind like Albert Einstein. You'd think he'd talk about particle physics or he'd talk about the theory of relativity. No. He laid it down very simply. Is this a friendly universe? Yes or no? Now, because I'm addressing a unity crowd, and because we believe in one presence, one power, God is absolute good, I'm guessing that the majority of us would answer in the affirmative, right? Because Albert Einstein also said, if we believe that the universe is an unfriendly place, then we will use our technology, our scientific discoveries, and our natural resources to create bigger walls to keep out the unfriendliness, and bigger weapons to destroy all that which is unfriendly. And that second statement seems to me to be a declaration of our time. We seem to be building greater walls and talking about greater and bigger weapons. So, some time ago when I was with you before, I mentioned 3 sanctuaries, spiritual sanctuaries that can help us navigate these difficult times. I talked about belonging, spiritual practice, and trust. You might go back, hear that message again. But I've been working with those, what I call sanctuaries, and I came to the realization that in truth, belonging and trust are 2 sides of the same coin. And that spiritual practice, the 3rd sanctuary, is what supports both of them. So I'm going to make the case today how belonging and trust support each other. When you feel that you're part of, when you feel that you belong, there's an automatic sense of trust. If you sacrifice a sense of belonging, there's no trust. In the same way, when you feel you have trust, you also feel like you belong. I'm going to invite you to contemplate that idea, how important these 2 ideas are, belonging and trust. And so just as we begin today, just as we jump into the message here today, I'm going to invite you to take a moment and just check in with yourself a sense of belonging, okay? Just, if you'd like, you can close your eyes, whatever, but do you feel at home? Do you feel safe? Do you feel that you are in your body? Do you feel that you're part of? Are you at home in your own heart? Do you belong to your own heart? Do you belong to the earth? to this moment. In other words, are you here? And if you are here, then just check in with yourself as far as trust. If you feel that you really have a sense of belonging to humanity, to life, to God, that you can also trust. Like I say, belonging and trust go together. If you feel that you don't belong, then you're always on the lookout for something's wrong. I need to be weary of something. I can't trust. Okay? Now I'm going to drop a truth bomb right at the beginning here, all right? There's only one quality that determines our capacity for happiness and intimacy, and that is trust. Without trust, there is no sense of happiness or intimacy, all right? Now, let's be clear. Each one of us, because we're in a human body, have an evolutionary perspective towards mistrust, okay? It's born into us, part of our DNA. Think for a moment of the animals out in their natural habitat. They may be, looking for food, doing whatever, flying, swimming, running through the forest. At no time when they're out and about does the thought in the back of their mind say, is it safe? Is there a predator? Is there something I need to worry about? The minute a condition changes, they're on the lookout. They're always thinking, whoa. There's no time when they say, I am absolutely safe. We have inherited that. There's something in the back of our mind that is always saying, whoa, is it safe? Can I trust? Is it okay? Right? So we come in with what I'm calling a negativity bias. All of us, just in our DNA. Now, let's add to that our caregiving experience. Back to your early childhood. Was your home a safe place? Did you feel safe at home? Could you trust your caregivers, your parents or your caregivers? Could you trust the world outside when you began to face the world? Did you feel safe, cared for, that you belonged? If you had the sense that you were in any way marginalized, maybe when you got into school, all right? If you were set aside, that seed thought, I don't belong, I can't trust the world, comes in. Now, that is just baked into us, okay? So we have the evolutionary bias, the negativity bias that we've all had in our life when we've faced traumas and marginalization and all the isms in our world. And there's a longing within us for a sense of belonging and trust. Now, having said that, we're here in a unity sanctuary. What this says to me is that in your own personal spiritual evolution, you've encountered this negativity bias, both from our DNA and from our social conditioning, and you've somehow gone beyond that to say something like, there's only one presence and one power, and I'm defining it as absolute good. In other words, yes, this is a friendly universe. So despite the negativity bias, you're here today, and I want to congratulate you. I want to praise you for that evolutionary jump in consciousness which has brought you here today. I want to praise you for the spiritual practice that has allowed you to grow in trust. So, if we do carry that, and if we do believe that, if it's something that, is part of who we are, you might be saying to yourself, well, okay, so what's the problem? What's the problem? I've already gotten there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the rules of the game are changing, shifting sands in our culture, in our country. There was a scientific study done with some baby rats. Baby rats are called pups. Did you know that? I didn't know that. They're called pups. And these scientists put these baby rats, pups, into an environment, all right? And they started doing what babies do. They started horsing around, playing with each other. There was just general good-natured vibe in there, right? And into this environment, the scientist introduced one cat hair. Immediately, the play stopped. Suddenly, something's wrong. I got to watch out for something. Now, it's very possible that these pups maybe never have encountered a cat in their life, but because of their evolutionary bias, something was triggered within their system that says, whoa, watch out. Play stopped, relaxation stopped, tension grew. Okay? I know you've experienced something like this. I live in New York City. Imagine being on a subway car. You're minding your own business. Just want to get to your destination. And into this subway car suddenly steps in a crazy guy. And he comes in yelling and screaming, and he seems aggressive. Right away, the tension in that subway car escalates. Everybody's grabbing their stuff. You begin thinking thoughts like, oh my God, is this guy going to get violent? Does he have a gun? Am I okay? You're looking at the map to see when is the next stop so you can get off, because the survival instinct has kicked in and you don't want any problems. You're hoping the next stop comes quickly so you can get off that train, right? So we need to ask ourselves, what is the cat hair? And what is the crazy that's come into our subway car these days? Some time ago, the United States dropped a huge bomb on the country of Iran. An unprovoked attack that was not sanctioned by Congress, as the Constitution says it should be. To me, this was a terrible act of war. I don't know what the consequences of that will be, but I could feel the sand shifting, asking myself, is this the United States of America? Right now, if you're a business owner, you don't know how to set your inventory, your employees, your stock. You don't know whether to invest or divest. You don't know what these tariff things going on. You don't know what tomorrow or next month or next year is going to bring, right? If you're a government employee, you're beginning to look around for another job because your job is not secure. If you are an immigrant, Lord have mercy, I pray for you. What's up with education? Our education system is being threatened. Our health system, what's this going on with the vaccines? The legal system is upside down. The rule of law seems to be threatened. The freedom of the press. What happened to the freedom of the press? The freedom of assembly and protest? What happened to an independent judiciary? Ladies and gentlemen, the sands are shifting. The legal system seems upside down. And our president accepts multi-million-dollar gifts from questionable allies. And he sells cryptocurrency to profit himself and his family. Now I'm standing here asking you, through the message title of today, to come into trust and a sense of belonging. I wouldn't blame you if you're saying, what are you, nuts? That's why I called it the audacity of trust, because it is audacious request in the current climate that we find ourselves. So let's shift gears for a moment, okay? Take a deep breath with me. This is heavy. This is heavy. There is only one solution to these shifting sands, to this upside-down world, and that is the spiritual solution. Science ain't going to take us home. Technology ain't going to take us home. Certainly politics ain't going to take us home. All right? Only one thing's going to take us home: the spiritual solution. So, let me share this poem with you. This is a 14th century poet. He comes from Persia, which is now called Iran. And yes, I picked that on purpose. This is an Iranian poet. He says, Hafiz, some of you know Hafiz. He says, admit something. Everyone you see, say to them, love me. Of course, you don't do this out loud, otherwise someone would call the cops. Oh, yeah. Still, though, think about this great pull in us to connect. Why not become the one who lives with that full moon in each eye, that is always saying with that sweet moon language what every other eye in the world is dying to hear? Love me with that sweet moon language, what every other eye in this world is dying to hear. So Hafiz talks right at the beginning about a pull to connect, a longing for trust. I praised you for the consciousness that has brought you here today, the consciousness that establishes in your life, yes, there is one presence and one power, and I call it God, and I call it good. Yes, this is a friendly universe because of that theology. I praise you for that. And the reason that you're holding on to that is because something within you has said yes to this longing for oneness, for inclusion, for being part of that one presence and one power. There's a longing, there's a thirst, there's a hunger for that oneness at the spiritual level, and that has brought you here today. That's a beautiful thing. That's a wonderful thing. It's a truth that we stand on. And so in that truth, then, we have to know and understand that there are some things that we can do to help ourselves fulfill that thirst, that hunger, that longing. I have two ideas for you today that I'm going to share to help us with the spiritual solution in these shifting times. And the first one has to do with shifting our attention to goodness. Let me start with a story. This week I had an appointment downtown Manhattan. I was taking the subway to Manhattan. And I walked down onto the platform. And as I step onto the platform, my train pulls up, and just in front of me, the doors open up. In other words, I didn't have to wait not 1 minute, and like open sesame, the doors opened up, I walked in and sat down. Oh yeah. I got on the train, got out at my destination. Now, it had been raining, and it stopped raining. I said, hey, that's nice. Look at my watch. Turns out I have a little bit extra time. And the thought occurs to me, hey, I'd like a cup of coffee. And just as I have that thought, a Starbucks appears on the corner. I cross the street, no line, step up to the counter. I see the barista's name is Adrian. I said, Adrian, how you doing today? He says, I'm doing great. I said, Adrian, I hope the rest of your day is good too. He says, great, what can I get you? I said, Adrian, give me a small black coffee. Adrian gives me a medium black coffee. I said, Adrian, you gave me an upgraded order. He says, that's right. You treat me good, I treat you good. I say, Adrian, thank you. Now I look over, and there is a chair with a table next to the window looking out to the street. Now, if you know anything about New York City, that is prime real estate. Am I right? Looking out on the street, table, chair, all to myself, I sit down, and I am feeling good. And I'm looking and I'm thinking about my day. And suddenly I have a realization, you know what? I'm in the flow. I'm in the groove. I'm being. Things are happening. Things are going my way today. Ooh, yeah, I'm feeling good. Just as I'm thinking that, my phone rings. It's my wife. She has a question for me. I answer her question, and then she says to me, how you doing? I said, man, I am in the flow. I am doing, I am being, I am grooving today. She says, man, can you give me some of that? I said, yeah, you take it all. All right. Finish my coffee, go back onto the street, and I start asking myself, I'm just feeling good today. I wonder, I ask myself, is this the way life is supposed to be lived? Ooh. I make a commitment at that moment. I say, you know what? No matter what else happens today, I'm going to see it as good. I'm just going to declare it good because I love this feeling. I want to carry it for the rest of my day. Ooh, that felt good. Then I asked myself, gee, I wonder if there's any theology around that idea. I said, well, is God in the flow? Is God being? I said, yeah. Well, am I a child of God? Yeah. Am I one with God? Yeah. Woo! Does God ever change? No. You know what? The rest of my day, all goodness, no matter what happened. So let me remind you of a theology that you already know. Where thoughts go, energy flows. Or as we say in Unity, thoughts held in mind, what? Come on, I didn't hear you. Thoughts held in mind? After their own kind. Come on, good Unity students. One more time. Thoughts held in mind? Produce after their kind. All right. You know that. So I'm asking you today to perceive goodness in your world. Now, Julie Andrews put it down a little bit more succinctly. So she said, when the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm come on, help me out. Sad, I simply remember a few of my favorite things. And then what? So sad. All right, James. Good, James. Good dog over here. All right. Way to go. Yeah, she put it down. She says, where your thoughts go, energy flows. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Now, that is a great technique to go through your day when you feel the stand shift. However, I do have another idea. And the other idea is helpful because in order to come into that consciousness of perceiving goodness, I believe, we need to have a certain level of awareness. We need to have a certain already state of awakeness. Like I was in the Starbucks, things were going my way. I woke up to it from whatever stupor I may have been beforehand, right? It was a short jump to that. But when you turn on the news and you're challenged with these things and you have different negative emotions that are produced inside of you, it's a lot harder to make that jump. So the second idea is what I call coming into the reality as it is. Okay? Why is this important? This is important because perceiving goodness is not always that easy, especially if we have a sense of our own inner judgment. All right? The Jungian analyst Robert Johnson said the following. He said, curiously, people resist the noble aspects of themselves, the unacknowledged traits, more strenuously than they hide the dark side. He summarized, it's more disrupting to find out that you have a profound nobility than to find out that you're a bum. And I know this is true for me. It's a lot easier for me to admit to you, hey, I'm a bum, than to say I'm an angel. I'm an angel. Ooh. That's a hard pill to swallow, but I'm a bum? Yeah, I'm down with that. How many of you agree with me? It's easier to say I'm a bum than I'm an angel. Okay, a few brave souls. Thank you. All right, good. So we need this other technique, right? Especially when we're in that negativity. Now, prayer always begins where we are. Let's suppose you're getting some difficult news, some challenging things that are disturbing you, some negative emotions are coming up, right? And you have enough awareness to say to yourself, man, I need a spiritual solution here. I'm going to go to prayer. Let's suppose we have that realization, which already is high consciousness, ladies and gentlemen, right? Just that awareness, Eckhart Tolle tells us, is halfway home, okay? So you've already done half your work just to get to that place where you say, I'm going to pray. Now, where do we start in prayer? We start exactly where we are. So you get the news of this or that, and you ask yourselves, what am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling powerless. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling desperate. I'm feeling fearful. That's exactly where prayer needs to begin. You start with, oh, I'm a child of God and all is well. Candy coating, Pollyanna, not effective prayer. Prayer needs to meet you where you are in truth. We need to be willing to face the reality of our emotional and mental state without any filters or barriers. Okay? That is high consciousness prayer work. Now, I have a therapist who has a favorite line. She always says, give it all the space. So when we're in therapy, right, and I touch on those negative things about myself, I'm seeing something awful. We're into the greasies, I like to say, right? She says to me, all right, now give it all the space. What I want to do is kick it out, stamp it out, repress it, detour away from it, not see it, not feel it. And she's saying, no, welcome it and give it all the space inside of you that it needs. Which what? It brings me deeper into the darkness. Now, thank God we have this theology. Thank God we have this truth. In the back of our mind might be this truth. no matter how dark it is, no matter how painful, no matter how fearful, the light is always there. The truth is always there. God is always there. So I fasten my seatbelt and I go into the darkness with a sense of willingness to be able to feel those very desperate and awful feelings. And oftentimes that's accompanied with tears or with a very profound sense of heaviness, trauma, right? And she continues to say, give it all the space. Now what are you thinking? Now what are you feeling? Oh, the mind just begins to go crazy. But she insists that I stay with it, and we need to stay with whatever it is that we're feeling. Why? Because in that experience, a miracle happens. Something mystical, something marvelous, something wonderful. A truth that you have experienced time and again. The light comes in to the darkness. We come to understand that the light overcomes the darkness. The darkness does not fight the light. It simply surrenders to it when the light is present. So if we hold on to that anger, to that fear, to that desperation, loneliness, and sadness long enough, we come into a state which the mystics call the witness self, the observer. It's kind of like you go to the ocean and you're standing there on the shore and you want to go take a swim, but the waves are coming, and the waves are strong. They're pushing you back. They're threatening even your stance on the sand. I feel like that many times in our world. Here comes one way. There has not been 1 week in recent months where I felt a sense of comfort and peace about current events. Not 1 week. Waves keep coming, threatening to top me down. Sometimes they do. Got to stand up again. But here's what I'm telling you. You stand in those waves, you see them coming. Maybe you're a little afraid of them because they feel strong. There's a riptide. Oh my God, what's going to happen? You got all these crazy thoughts. But if you give all those crazy thoughts the space that they need, the witness self comes in. And suddenly you realize, I'm in the ocean. In fact, I am the ocean. Sure, the ocean has waves. But what are the waves compared to the ocean? The ocean has depth. The ocean has calm. The ocean has strength. The waves are, yes, an expression, but the waves ain't got nothing on the ocean. And these situations, ladies and gentlemen, has got nothing on the spiritual self, the spiritual warrior that you are. When we come into that realization, a new sense of self is born. An expanded sense of self. That longing for oneness with God is realized. You begin to sense the oneness, to sense the unity, to sense the truth about one presence, one power. God is absolute good. Suddenly your perspective is huge. You see it all. You see yourself as a child of God, not as someone who is born and dies, but as somebody eternal. Somebody who has feelings but are not your feelings. Somebody who has thoughts but are not your thoughts. Somebody who has a body but is not your body. And in that realization, ladies and gentlemen, you are free. You are free. And that's where we breathe, you see. That's where we come into a sense of belonging. and a sense of trust. Sometimes I ask myself, what is it that I can really trust? And I remember a moment when I was in a spiritual retreat many years ago. You know, these spiritual retreats where you have hours of silence, and then in the evening you come together for some sharing and some experience. And there we were sitting sharing, and suddenly out of my mouth comes this statement: I don't trust myself. It surprised me. I hadn't intended to share that, but as the topic was trust, it just sort of came out of me. And boom, right? And the room went quiet for a moment with the weight of that truth. And I don't even remember what else happened, but I do remember I went back to my room that night and I cried. Because I thought to myself, man, if I can't trust myself, then who can I trust? But the truth is, I can't trust myself. I say one thing, I do another. Much easier for me to admit I'm a bum than an angel. Well, who can I trust? Can I trust you? Can I trust my friends? Can I trust the world? Certainly can't trust politics. Can't trust the legal system. I can't trust. So what can you trust? Here's the one thing that I think we can trust: our capacity to wake up, our capacity to come into truth, our capacity to embrace the idea of the Christ in expression. I can embrace that possibility within me, and I can also embrace that possibility within you and with every soul on this earth. And that possibility is what helps me to come into trust. With that sense of trust come a sense of belonging, and with that a sense of freedom and peace. So let me conclude today by going back to Hafiz, our Iranian poet, 14th century. He said something which I love. I'm quoting just a part of one of his poems. He says, "My dear, let prayer become your beautiful lover and become free. Become free of this whole world." Wow. I love that. When you are with your beautiful lover, you aren't processing the story of your life. You have come into oneness. Right? The Bible says they shall leave their mother and father, and the two shall become one flesh. You have come into oneness. When you're with your beautiful lover, you feel that sense of oneness. You feel like you belong. You feel like you're worthy. You feel like you can trust. Ooh. So let prayer become your beautiful lover. Now, Charles Fillmore said that prayer is the highest form of mind action. We say amen to that. But Hafiz is putting it down a little more poetically. Let prayer become your beautiful lover. Embrace prayer as that answer to the longing within you for freedom and for peace. On this day, I'm inviting you to take everything that's happening in our world, in your world, give it all the space. If you can perceive goodness, God bless you. I'll see you on the street smiling and dancing. If it's a little hard for you, I'm inviting you to give it all the space. Allow it. Accept it. Be in it until the realization of who you are as a child of God, as one with God, be born in you again. Let prayer become your beautiful